Hey guys, this is video number 3 in the Guitar Keys series where we're looking at how to play all interval patterns that are possible in a given key. Now in the first video, we looked at how all music is made up of 6 geometric patterns that are symmetrical and consistent across all keys. Then in the next video, the previous video to this, we looked at how to play these 6 patterns in the key of C specifically. And in this video, we're going to look at how to play these patterns in the key of G. Now, what does it mean to be in the key of G specifically? Well, what that means is that if we're playing different patterns like scales or melodies or chords or progressions, those note patterns tend to center around or gravitate towards the G note in music. So looking at a guitar fretboard, for example, if we look at all the G positions that rise up the guitar, this note in different octaves serves as the focal point in a song. Now, of course, we don't just play the G note like this, the G alone in the key of G. We play other notes in between that act like stepping stones that lead us from one G note to the next. G serves as the starting point and the destination, and the other notes help us move around within this key. And the most natural and satisfying way to move between these G notes is playing an interval pattern known as the major scale, or in the key of G, the G major scale, which is made up of notes G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And when we highlight these notes on the fretboard, you can see how they plot different paths up and down the instrument between various octaves of G, which we can play in different positions on the fretboard. Like this one, which starts on the low 6th string, 3rd fret, where it can rise up like this, or fall like this. Or we can play in an octave higher, starting on the 4th string, 5th fret, or we can move up the fretboard like this, starting on the 10th fret, 5th string. In each of these examples of the G major scale, the G note serves as the tonal center of gravity, or as the natural destination of the notes. The notes naturally want to resolve up to G if it's rising, or want to resolve down to G if the scale is falling. Or you can think of the G note as a pair of bookends. It starts with G and ends on G in each case. Of course, there are 12 notes in music called the chromatic scale, and each string of the guitar is its own chromatic scale, rising in half steps up each fret. And because the guitar has 6 strings, the instrument is basically a stack of 6 chromatic scales on top of each other. And when we fill in all of the notes, you can see that the fretboard is filled with a lot of different pitches. Though when we focus on the key of G and the G major scale specifically, we can fade some of these notes to really focus on just this subset of all the pitches that are possible to play. Now, the major scale pattern is so popular in music that musicians also label it with another set of symbols called scale degrees, or a set of numbers that rise from 1 to 8, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, because 8 is the same as 1, they're both G notes, we can really just say that the 8th is another interval 1 or scale degree 1. So we could say the G major scale, instead of saying G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, we could just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Or in another position, we could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Or in another position, we could also say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. These scale degrees are just another way of labeling the same G major scale pattern. While the letter labels describe the specific pitches in this pattern, the scale degree numbers highlight the intervals or general relationships between these various notes. And again, because there are 12 notes in the chromatic scale, all of the different intervals up and down the fretboard could be labeled with their own number labels, like this. But focusing on the major scale alone, we can fade these extra intervals to highlight just the key of G, which makes it easier to get a feel for and navigate between these various notes. Now, using all of these different symbols like letters to describe the pitches and numbers to describe the scale degrees or intervals, it can get a little bit hard to wrap your head around what we're looking at here. So are we describing this pattern as G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G? Or are we looking at it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? All of these different alphanumeric characters can get a little bit busy. So to simplify things, let's look at the same pattern using colors instead. And when we do, it's easier to see the various notes and intervals. G here is the red-orange circle in its various positions up the fretboard. And to move from one G note to the next, we can fill in the other notes within the key of G like this. To play the pattern down low, or in the middle of the fretboard, or up high like this. Or we can play this major scale in various other positions as well. But the point is that it's a lot easier to navigate the fretboard like this using color. But it gets even better actually, because these colors do more than just help us find and play the various notes. They actually explain the underlying theory of the intervals, the relationships between those intervals in a given key. So in another series, the fretboard geometry series, I explain how these intervals are geometric and symmetrical from one key to the next. And in this video, we're going to see how these simple patterns apply to the key of G, how you can play them in the key of G. So the intervals not only in the G major scale, but all of the intervals within the key of G. And the reason this is important because we use these patterns to come up with different scales and melodies and chords and progressions that are what you use to actually create songs. So we're going to look at these patterns one at a time, starting with the interval pattern of 1 in sharp 4/flat 5. Now this first interval pattern doesn't sound really good actually. In fact, it's very dissonant because interval 1, the G note, the red-orange circle, and the sharp 4/flat 5, or the D flat, the green-blue circle, are tritones, or complementary colors. They're polar opposites. And using color, you can see how these two intervals form slanting stacks of notes. And they sound like this. The next intervals, though, sound much more consonant because they're 1, 4, and 5, or in the key of G, that's G, the red-orange circle, C, the red square, interval 4, and D, the orange square, or interval 5. Together, all of these intervals sound very consonant because they're closely related in the circle of fifths, as I explain in this video. So here's how they look and sound in the key of G. They sound pretty good together, right? And an easy way to spot these notes to get a feel for this pattern on the fretboard is to notice how the G note in any position is flanked by intervals 4 and 5 on either side. Interval 4 is always just above it, and 5 is just below. So looking at this G note, for example, interval 1 is on the 4th string, 5th fret, and interval 4, C, the red square, is on string 3, 5th fret, just above, and interval 5, D, the orange square, is on string 5, fret 5, just below. Now because there's a shift in the top two strings, sometimes the subdominant, or interval 4, is shifted up by a fret, like this one, or the dominant, interval 5, is shifted down by a fret, like this one. But otherwise, the tonic, interval 1, or in the key of G, the red-orange circle, is sandwiched between intervals 4 and 5 in any position up the fretboard. The next set of notes that are spaced equally on either side of interval 1, or G, the red-orange circle, are interval 3, or the major third, B, the yellow-green circle, and the flat 6th, or minor 6th, E flat, the blue-purple circle. Together, these three intervals form a perfect equilateral triangle of tertiary colors. And on the fretboard, when we fade out all of the other notes and focus just on these three intervals, these notes form slanted stacks like this, which have kind of an epic sound when you play them in sequence. These intervals actually show up in a lot of chords. They're the basis of many chords in music, as I explain in another video. And the next intervals that again are symmetrical around the tonic, interval 1, are flat 3, or the minor third, B flat, the purple square, and 6, or the major 6th, E, the yellow square, in the key of G. These two intervals, flat 3 and 6, are tritones with each other, and also evenly spaced with G, or the red-orange circle's tritone, D flat, the flat 5, the green-blue circle. And because of these dissonant connections, all of these intervals have kind of a haunting, almost melancholy sound together. In some ways they resonate, and in other ways they conflict, tonally. And on the fretboard they look and sound like this. Now the next pair of intervals that are equally spaced on either side of the tonic G, the red-orange circle, are interval 2, the major second, A, the orange-yellow circle, and the flat 7 or minor 7th, F, the purple-red circle. Together, all three of these intervals are spaced at whole step intervals and are part of a hexagon of circles all evenly spaced within the chromatic scale. These notes have a bright, happy sound when played in sequence, and they look like this on the fretboard. Then the last set of geometric intervals in the key of G are the flat second or minor second, A flat, the blue square, and interval 7 or the major 7th, F sharp, the green square in the key of G. And these two notes sit on either side of G, the red-orange circle. And because they're closely related to interval flat 5, the tritone in the key of G, they sound really dissonant with G because they resonate with the tritone, which is also dissonant with the tonic interval 1, G. And together, these three intervals, 1, flat 2, and 7, are part of a 12-sided dodecagon, also known as the chromatic scale. Now these intervals are easy to play on the fretboard because they rise in half-step intervals or up the frets, one at a time on the various strings, and they look and they sound like this. So again, these intervals don't sound especially good on their own. Some of them sound consonant and some of them sound dissonant, but together they form the intricate framework of interval patterns that are possible to play in the key of G. And once you understand these individual moves, you can put them together like a mental composite image, like the various moves that are available in the game of chess, to inform how you can play, how you can move your hand across the instrument. Not only how to move your hand, but why your hand would move in different positions as you start to combine these different interval patterns into more informed patterns like scales, melodies, chords, and progressions. This is the music theory that is behind the art of songwriting. So once you get these patterns down in the key of G, you can start to play other patterns in the key of G and really rock out and make some music. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe to see more videos like this, and I'll catch you in the next video.